Hello, this is Brian from Sound Test, and welcome to Casual Review. So, Casual Review is going to be a mostly unscripted series in which I casually review things. Seeing that what we're going to be casually reviewing today is the Mortal Kombat movie from this year of 2021, decided to have the gameplay footage to be the Mortal Kombat reboot. So again, I have notes off to the side, and I'm just going to kind of casually go through various points of the movie as I play through the game. So just letting you know, this will be very spoiler heavy, so just keep that in mind. And I'm going to kind of go through a general plot overview, and as I go through the plot overview, I will say my thoughts and opinions on various different aspects of the movie. All right, so let's start at the very beginning of the movie, and there is a scene kind of in a feudal Japan in which we have Scorpion's kind of clan, the Shirai Ryu, along with his son, his wife, and their infant daughter. And this scene is probably like the best scene in the movie. It's the scene where they released it free for everybody to see, and it's like the first 7 minutes of the movie, and it basically introduces us to this kind of long-standing rivalry between Scorpion and Sub-Zero. And so it begins with Scorpion going to get some water for his wife, and while he's gone, his entire village is attacked. Attacked primarily by Sub-Zero, who's Bihan, real name Bihan. And this is technically before he's actually considered Sub-Zero, but he's still going by his original name of Bihan. So anyway, he's going through this, and he literally murders the entire clan. And it is, he kind of scares his wife and his child, and the wife kind of thinks on her feet and hides the baby underneath a floorboard so that he can't get to the child. Scorpion hears, or I should say Hanzo hears his wife scream, and he goes to investigate and sees that the entire Shirai Ryu clan has been eliminated. And so then starts this really dope fight where he's going against a lot of the Lin Kuei, and he like decimates them, man. Now also, this is set in feudal Japan, so this is like 1590, I believe. And technology isn't modern technology, and so we kind of know Scorpion for his thing that comes out of his hands, like the little rope thing. But this is kind of like he uses a very primitive version of it. So he takes a dagger, wraps it around rope, and he's just slinging it, and it is deadly, man. And this scene is great because it kind of establishes the tone of the movie. There is no, it's a hard R. It is a rated R movie, and they are not shying away from the violence at all. The original Mortal Kombat movie from 1995, it was a PG-13 movie. So there was certain things they could get away with, but a lot they couldn't. And the original games were pretty, intense, but they were never like amazingly gory like the modern games. And this movie is way more catered towards the newer games, where it is just brutal, and it is just completely like they utilize the R rating to the fullest. So yeah, there's cursing and things like that, but the actual gore is like on display here, and it looks great. And kind of the through line through the whole movie is that these fight scenes are really good. And this they start off the movie with a really great one. So after Scorpion kind of handles Sub-Zero's men, he goes against Sub-Zero himself, and he's like, it's a good fight, but he's very outclassed, and Sub-Zero gets the upper hand and straight up murders him. And this is what I wish they did, was kind of really told us why it happens, and it just kind of like, all right, he hates his clan for whatever reason, and there's no really further explanation from that. And the thing with Mortal Kombat is, at its core, yeah, it's a very goofy fighting game with over the top physics and things like that. But despite that, a lot of the characters have this large thing of lore. Every character has some backstory and motivations for why they do the things they do. And I would have loved if the movie actually kind of went into more about the Shirai Ryu's rivalry with the Lin Kuei, and given that this is 1590 feudal Japan, that's a very long standing rivalry, and to have that and not give any context to that kind of does the actual storyline a little disservice. But anyway, it's a great scene. Lots of really dope choreography, and I think that's the best thing about this movie is the actual fight scenes. They put a lot of focus and attention into making sure that the characters' abilities themselves are super poignant. They're making sure that, hey, these moves feel like Sub-Zero's moves, or these moves feel like Kung Lao's moves. And I appreciate that, because the 1995 movie, granted, they were limited by budget and just special effects at the time, but Mortal Kombat 1995 was way more on practical martial arts more than special effects. And with this movie, because of this better technology, they're able to be very authentic to the characters themselves. I also like the ice effects whenever Sub-Zero is on screen. Those are pretty cool, and they're actually really well done. So then their screen goes to black after the Mortal Kombat symbol. Oh, I'm sorry. And Raiden shows up out of nowhere, and he takes Scorpion's daughter for safekeeping, basically, to keep the Scorpion bloodline going, as Sub-Zero didn't know about the daughter. So after he does that, we see the title screen, and it fades to black with a black screen kind of very rapidly going over the plot of Mortal Kombat itself. The idea that NetherRealm, Outer World, is trying to conquer Earthrealm, and basically they've won 9 tournaments thus far, and this is going to be leading up to the 10th tournament for them to invade Earthrealm. I really wish this was not just lore dumped in, a minute and not actually explained. That I feel like this movie suffers from being faithful to the fans and in trying to be, something exciting that anybody can watch. Because here's the thing. As fans, yeah, we know the basic idea of Mortal Kombat. We understand about the 10 tournaments that a realm must win in a row in order to fully conquer. But to give that exposition in a black screen of text, black screen with white text, and it's a lot to take in at once. You're just kind of like, I would think as a casual audience member, you'll just be very confused about any of that. And just to kind of brush past that, I don't think it's good for storytelling. But I digress. So anyway, then it shows this new character, Cole Young. And he's kind of like doing this illegal underground fighting. And I'm just going to be honest with you, I don't like this character at all. Cole Young is completely new. He's not part of any of the Mortal Kombat lore or story up until this point. So Cole is essentially, the everyman, the character that you, the audience member, is supposed to relate to, because he's just a normal guy and he doesn't have all these superpowers. And it's essentially the hero's journey, where you're supposed to see him start at his lowest point and work his way up. Which, okay, I understand that from a movie storytelling point of view, but that doesn't mean it's an interesting narrative. It's not something that draws the audience member in, at least for me, because again, that's where I feel this movie has those identity crises. Because Mortal Kombat fans, well, we don't want to see this new character. Mortal Kombat has so many ridiculous characters. You can make a large portion of them to be a main character, and to make a new character and have that character to be just a normal human being with like little to nothing of interest to him, it just makes you think, as a character, as a fan, this person could have been used, this character slot essentially could have been used for literally anybody else. And so Cole's first introduction, you just literally just get introduced to him getting his ass beat. Like, he's not a good fighter. Now, he's an MMA fighter, which, correct me if I'm wrong, not really been a mainstay in terms of Mortal Kombat fighting styles. They don't usually use MMA, or at least I can't think of a fighter who has done MMA style. So there's that, and he just gets demolished. And we are introduced to his family, his daughter, and his wife. And during his fight, we get introduced to Jax, who comes to see him perform and essentially get his ass beat. But he's there to kind of scope him out, because he realizes Cole has what they call the mark. And the mark is literally just the Mortal Kombat symbol, And they're always trying to find some way to have that symbol have some type of meaning. And it's at the end of the day, the Mortal Kombat symbol with the dragon symbol, it has no meaning. It's just a cool design. But I digress. So apparently this symbol is supposed to mean that they're chosen. Chosen for what? Well, that means they're chosen to compete in the actual Mortal Kombat tournament. And Jax is kind of there to try to recruit Cole, or at the very least find out more information on him. So it cuts to the next scene. After Cole's fight, he's out with his family getting ice cream. And then it gets suddenly super cold. And somebody marks that it's like July, and so it shouldn't be, cold. And they kind of do, the movie does do a good job of kind of foreshadowing whenever Sub-Zero is around. Because whenever Sub-Zero is around, something in the environment gets cold. There's some ice, or characters are visually, getting colder, and that's kind of like your indication that, oh, Sub-Zero is here. That the storytelling device. So Sub-Zero comes, and again, every time he comes, these like ice effects and these ice particles. They're actually like really well done. You could tell like a lot of the budget was done to make sure that those effects look great. And so he kind of attacks Cole and his family, and Jax just so happens to be there to come in for the save, because Jax has been basically staking out and watching over Cole and his family. So he saves them, only to get cornered by Sub-Zero. And so Jax used this opportunity to give Cole basically his vehicle to get him to safety. He name drops Sonya Blade and tells him he needs to find her, and she will help him basically explain to him everything that's going on. And Jax very quickly explains to him that that mark is important, and only fighters who's been chosen. And that's when Cole reveals that it's he's got the wrong person. He's not a good fighter, and it's this is a birthmark of his. He's born with this, which is foreshadowing events later in the movie. And Jax goes to confront Sub-Zero on his own. Needless to say, Jax is completely outclassed, and he just gets demolished. And again, the fight scene is really cool, and it's just like you know what's going to happen. You know that Jax loses his arms. Jax is not Jax without his super robotic arms. So he gets he gets his arm frozen and literally like he gets him broken and then gets him broken off. And Sub-Zero just kind of like drops him and he falls on the ground, presumably dead. Sub-Zero has just a terrible habit of just making sure people are not dead, because he didn't fully kill Hanzo Hasashi. He still had a little bit of life in him. He doesn't fully kill Jax, and just like he's not very thorough in his job. But regardless, hard cuts to Cole basically putting his family up in a hotel, or just somewhere, not in a hotel, but somewhere safe. And he goes off to find Sonya Blade. And while I'm getting here, he meets up with Sonya Blade. The casting in this movie is actually generally pretty good, and I say that because almost every character you see them, you're like, yeah, that's Jax. Or you see Sonya and just like, yeah, that's Sonya. And that's especially for a character that's going to be revealed very, very soon. So, and I messed that up. So we're introduced to Sonya Blade, who immediately attacks Cole. He defends himself just enough not to get killed. And he explains he's been sent by Jax, and she kind of takes him to this trailer park kind of base of operations. She takes him downstairs and she gives him kind of a lore dump of what's been going on. More specifically about the mark, that they've been sensing superhuman abilities and things out of the norm that's been going on. So as she's going through this, you're introduced to Kano, and Kano absolutely just kind of just takes the cake in this game. In this movie. His like casting is absolutely perfect. See, Kano has always just been a character that you love to hate. He's a terrible person. He does terrible things. He says terrible things, and he's just an uncomfortable person to be around. And that's what makes like his character so engaging in this movie. The actor that plays him just plays his role perfectly. You don't like Kano, and because you don't like Kano, when bad stuff happens to him, or when he gets cocky and gets way in over his head, it feels justified when he gets his. But he just steals the scene, man. Like his charisma is always A1. He's constantly like whatever. He's constantly stealing the spotlight. He's constantly like making sure like he's the most important character on screen. After that, they get ambushed by Reptile, and if you ever seen the original Mortal Kombat from 1995, that original Reptile looks so horrible because the CG was just so bad. But they make up for it, a lot with the Reptile in here. The CG looks, I won't say great, but it's very serviceable for what they're trying to do. And so they get into a fight with Reptile, and again, they do such a great job with establishing characters' abilities. So Reptile is constantly going invisible. He's constantly using acid. He's climbing up walls and ceilings, and he's using these sneak attacks. And again, the characters use smart ways to deal with him. They literally put a flare on him so that they can see him. And Kano defeats him, and he literally does one of his fatality moves, in which he rips Reptile's heart out and just like holds it up pulsating. And it's like, that's another thing, this movie is very fan servicey. They do things where they show characters fatalities, and they give you little nods to the games and the lore. Like even the scene before that in the lab when Sonya's kind of doing the exposition dump, you see a picture of Nightwolf and like this ancient warrior, and that's pretty dope. They have like little things like that, or how Cole once had a fight with a guy named Eddie Tobias, referencing the original creators of Mortal Kombat. So after that, they figure out that they need to go find this mystical temple to find Lord Raiden, basically. And Kane is revealed that Kano knows where this temple is, and he can, he's able to take them. But obviously he refused because he's awful. He's just an awful human being. And so Sonya basically tells him, "Hey, I can offer you $3 million if you complete this mission with us, or whatever." And he's like, you live in this dump. How can you afford $3 million? And she gets offended, like, this is my childhood home, and whatever. And so he agrees to take them. And Cole like literally goes to her. He's like, "You have $3 million?" And she's like, "Of course not. You see where I live?" And the thing that kind of bothered me a little. So it's well known that Sonya is special forces in this, as well as Jax. And special forces has always been people who've been well equipped. There is not like a run of the mill organization. And I'm not saying that Sonya has 3 million, but she would have something better for compensation. And they make it seem like she's like really broke. And which, again, if she's part of special forces, I would hope and think that, she's at least supported with something. And it just seems like a fly by night operation. She doesn't have a lot of tech. Their base of operations is literally a trailer home outfitted with like a bunker. And another weird thing, she does not use guns at all in this movie. Like, there's not a single point where Sonya or Jax has any type of weapons in terms of firearms. And I have absolutely no idea why. Like, they're special forces. They're like literally government, operatives or whatever, and they're supposed to be this super high tech secret organization there to protect for the odd anomalies of the world. But anyway, so they convince Kano to take him to the place. Somewhere around here is also revealed. Outworld is revealed again with Shang Tsung, and Shang Tsung is introduced. He has actually introduced a little bit earlier. But Shang Tsung is introduced, as well as Melina. And I really like the casting choice for Melina. I think her design looks dope. And then they fly out to this whatever mystic temple that's in the middle of the jungle. I mean, the middle of the desert or whatever. And just so happened by happenstance, Liu Kang just happens to be walking in their same direction and knows exactly where to take them. And again, I like Liu Kang's casting. He kind of just tells them what's going on. He moves them to the temple, brings them to the temple, and introduces them to Raiden. And I'm not gonna lie, I don't like Raiden in this movie, like at all. He's such a jerk, man. And I'll probably feel this a special way because Raiden is one of my more favorite characters in the Mortal Kombat franchise. I like Raiden because he's kind of supposed to be this stoic person, Yeah, there's always situations where he's kind of can't, be in the fight or can't be within the narrative and stuff like that. But I've always thought of Raiden as, he's supposed to be this not mystic character, but the voice of reason, the wise old man who kind of can know what to do in each situation. And he is just a jerk in this movie, man. Like, when he sees them, he's just like, oh, these are our warriors. Like, that's all you have. What do you mean these are your warriors? Yes. And like, he's not a fun person he's not fun on screen. He doesn't have any charisma. Now, on the exact opposite end, he's not like Mortal Kombat 1995, where he's just kind of awkward and weird. But at the same time, he's just a jerk. He doesn't seem like what Raiden should be, So anyway, they basically say that you're here to get your training, and somehow Sonya hears something in the background, and she goes and investigates and finds Jax. And I'm like, how? She didn't know Jax was going to be there. She just started walking in this random temple and finds Jax there. Like, there was no indication that Jax was over there because he was still like essentially in a coma. She just hears something, investigates, and finds Jax. I wish they would have explained that better, but they don't. So yeah. So Sonya's with Jax, and Liu Kang is kind of like, I don't want to say just keeping watch, he's just kind of there, and things start getting cold again, and that's your indication that Sub-Zero's coming. And so he comes in and starts the fighting Liu Kang like immediately. And again, it's like Sub-Zero is insanely OP in this movie. Like, every time he comes in, nobody's a match for him. And so he's saved by Kung Lao, and Kung Lao is just another one of my favorite characters in the Mortal Kombat franchise, and I think the casting for Kung Lao is perfect. So I always like the difference between Kung Lao and Liu Kang. Liu Kang is very much the Boy Scout. Liu Kang is very much follow the rules, don't get in trouble, kind of generally nice to everyone, while Kung Lao is like the cooler older brother. Kung Lao himself he makes wisecracks, and he's respectful, but he's also kind of edgy at certain times. And I always found Kung Lao to be just cool design. I loved his hat. I loved teleportation abilities and stuff like that. So I always liked Kung Lao as a character. So anyway, he comes in for the save, and I'm gonna try this one more time because Shao Kahn is so garbage. He's so broken. Good God, he's so broken. Try that one more time. But anyway, so he comes in with a save, and basically Shang Tsung is trying to ambush them, and Raiden comes in to deflect. Now, here's plot thing that just aggravates me about this movie. He comes in and says, "Oh, I can do this. I can literally cheat before the tournament because the Elder Gods are lazy." What is the purpose of the Elder Gods? You're telling me that they're just going to allow this. They're not going to do anything to help this. Yeah, Raiden is the Earth Realm protector, but he's clearly breaking the rules of the Mortal Kombat competition, which the rules that the Elder Gods set in place. So what is their purpose? And just to say that, just throw away line, "Oh, the Elder Gods are lazy." What's their purpose? Anyway, so Raiden does this kind of like shield over them to protect them, and kind of Shang Tsung just has to leave. And basically because of this, they say their training starts now. And so here's another thing I don't like plot-wise that was introduced in this movie, and that's the idea of the Arcana. And essentially the Arcana is the in-movie explanation for why certain characters have abilities. So why Liu Kang has his fireballs, and why Kung Lao can teleport, things like that. And so the Arcana basically is this MacGuffin in which if you get the Mortal Kombat mark, the dragon symbol, you're able to tap into this power, or this latent ability within yourself, and every person's is going to be different. So they start training to kind of activate everybody's Arcana, but they don't allow Sonya to train because she doesn't have the mark and she's a liability. And again, it's just like, you see that they put this in here as basically plot armor to have some type of redemption arc or whatever towards the end. So they go through their training, and it just seems like basic martial arts stuff, and they don't show you like what makes their training in specific any special. Is just training. So eventually gets to the point where Jax wakes up, and the doctors kind of give him like these tiny robot hands that can't do much, and that's basically the best that they can do. So they're having dinner, and Kano gets super angry because kind of Kung Lao kind of baits him into being angry. He does it on purpose because he kind of sees that Kano's big thing is anger, which really kind of pushes him forward, or like kind of his strongest trait or arc. And so they do this to activate Kano's Arcana, which is obviously his red eye beam. Because again, in this movie, he doesn't have the robotic eye. He's just a regular person, and the Arcana kind of explains why he can just shoot lasers, other than he had some cybernetic enhancements. So anyway, that was their way to coax him to revealing his arcana, and they try to do the same for Cole. Not by anger, but by trying to put him in combat. Maybe pain is the reason, the thing to activate his arcana, and it's not. He just gets his ass whooped. Meanwhile, they also introduce. They go back to Outer World, and they introduce Reiko and Nitara, as well as Cabal, and using Reiko and Katana, that's like bottom of the barrel Mortal Kombat characters. To be honest, I am not doing it. Down, up, down. I do not like this. I'm not doing this fatalities. They're kind of like bottom tier Mortal Kombat characters. So they're literally ones that you just don't care about if they lose, or if they die, essentially, because they're not fan favorites. They're not ones that people care about. So they're literally just cannon fodder. And basically, Shang Tsung reveals his plan to kind of sabotage and ambush the warriors of Earthrealm. And they do this because of Cabal's affiliation with Kano. And so they travel back to the temple, and Cabal basically convinces Kano to switch sides. And of course, this means that Kano must, betray them, and he end up deactivating the shield. But before he even deactivates the shield, Cole again is having these problems of, getting his arcana, and Raiden again is just a jerk. He's not wise. He knows what he was trying to do, I guess you can argue, but it doesn't come out like that. It just comes out like he's just a real jerk. So basically, Cole is just like missing his family, and he's basically saying that he can't get his arcana. He doesn't know what to do, and then Raiden's like basically like, yeah, you're a failure. If you're not going to take this seriously, then get out of here. And he literally opens a portal and just like, go. And so he just goes, and it's just like, this is supposed to be the protector of Earthrealm. This jerk. He like, you would think, again, think of just Raiden. You would think he'll do some type of, larger thought into, what he can do to bring out this part of him, or some type of inspiration. No, it's just like, get out of here. So Cole leaves. Kano sabotages everybody, and the Outworld fighters are able to go ahead and attack. So Goro is sent to deal with Cole, and Goro is usually OP. Like in the games, Goro is very OP, and they sent him to kill Cole, which Cole should be very outmatched, because again, up into this point in the movie, Cole has pretty much lost every single fight. In any situation where he has to go against somebody, he loses. Even against a regular human being, he loses. And you're supposed to put him against, Goro, one of the sub bosses in the franchise. But anyway, so Goro comes in there. He starts beating his ass. Cole stands no chance, and his wife gets into a shot in him. And as they try to escape, Goro stops him. He's like destroying the car, and he's about to kill Cole's family. Then Cole's Arcana basically is activated, and I guess it was just his intense love for his family. That's what activated his Arcana. And so his Arcana, again, remember, Cole is a completely original character in this movie, so there's no other like lore leading up to Cole's character. He gets this weird body armor shirt thing, and these two like weapons, one that looks like a police baton, and another that kind of looks like a dagger, a long dagger or blade. And that's it. Like, and here's the thing: all the other arcanas are kind of like, you can argue there's something that are like manifestation of your soul, or something manifestation from inside. They're like actual powers, teleportation, fireballs, electricity. You know, these are all kind of like actual powers. Nah, his is just body armor essentially. And it just feels so cheap, and I would understand if it was like kind of like flames, or something that had to deal with Scorpion, because Scorpion is his long lost relative. But no, it's weird body armor that makes absolutely no sense. So anyway, he activates this. I guess you can say because he's an MMA fighter, you know, it makes sense because MMA fighters have to take a lot of damage and punishment. So I guess armor would make sense in that case. Whatever. So he defeats Goro, which again is a super OP character, and he defeats him. The first movie pulled his BS too, because Johnny Cage had to go against Goro in the original movie in 1995, and he's essentially just make him fall off a cliff. That's essentially what he did. But again, the fighting is good. I'm not gonna deny that the fighting is good. And he uses the weapons and the blades very well to defeat Goro, and it's kind of brutal how he defeats him. Like his guts are like literally flying out at the end of it. So he defeats him, but everybody else's fights are not as good. Essentially, Sonya is pretty useless. She fights against Melina, and she gets destroyed, and Melina is about to kill her, and because she doesn't have the mark, Melina basically says she's not worthy. Kano comes in and throws her against some rocks, basically, and lasers a statue down and crushes her. Jax, again, completely uses of his baby arms. He gets thrown off to the side. And the only ones that's kind of holding their own is Kung Lao, which I'm going to talk about in a second, and Liu Kang. And Liu Kang goes up against Cabal. I really like how they utilize Cabal in this in this movie. Cabal's not really a character I really think about her a lot, but he is unique in the fact that he does have those like really long hooks, but also that he's like super fast, and they use his speed effects really well. He kind of always has like this purple streak on him as he's fighting and stuff like that, and his choreography is really dope, how he's speeding past and like getting quick hits in. I really liked his fight with Liu Kang, and I just like his costume design. His costume design is dope. Like it kind of gives you this kind of like Fallout vibes in terms of like the helmet gear, and he looks like something that's been tattered, like something he had to make up himself. Especially because he's basically a burn victim, and he has to live with he has to use this electronic lung or whatever to live. And then you have Kung Lao. So Kung Lao goes against Natara, and she is clearly outclassed. Like Kung Lao is kind of OP in this movie. Like Kung Lao is dope. There's never like a bad scene with Kung Lao, and so he literally jumps in the air, rides Natara, puts his hat blade to the ground, and does like a fatality essentially from the game. Puts the blade down, and she gets cut down the middle in half. Like it is visceral, man. And he just does it so flawlessly, and he literally says flawless victory. this movie has a lot of dumb one-liners, like stuff like that, but strangely it fits. Strangely it works, and that's one of the situations where it just works. Um, so then Raiden comes, and here's the thing that aggravates me. Another thing that aggravates me about Raiden in this. So he can essentially teleport at any time. So if he can teleport at any time, you're telling me you didn't feel any type of disturbance in the temple. You didn't realize that they were in danger. Like, why is he so incredibly late to this? So not only is he incredibly late to this, he tries to essentially get everybody out, and he does so. He fails in saving Kung Lao. So, and also I forgot, Jax, his Arcana activates because he tries to save Sonya, and his little baby robot arms becomes the full arms like we see for Jax normally. And again, it's just like, that's not really a power. You know, like, what if Jax's arms never got ripped off? What was Arcana be then? But I digress. And okay, actually, no, I don't digress, because that's another thing that bothered me. Because if I'm not mistaken, Jax got his arm because of the special forces. Like they manipulated. Like, once his arms got ripped in the Mortal Kombat 2, didn't the special forces like repair his arms and stuff like that? If I'm not mistaken. But anyway, Jesus. After that, Raiden attempts to teleport everybody out there, but he fails to save Kung Lao, because as he's teleporting Cole, Kung Lao, Scorpion tries to attack Cole, and he basically saves Cole, but in the same turn, Shang Tsung's able to get Kung Lao, and he's able to steal his soul. And that jump was heartbreaking, because like, Kung Lao was such a good character in this movie, man. Like, I loved everything about his character. He was cocky, but he can back it up. He had this great he always had these great abilities, and he almost owned everybody he was fighting against. And so to see him just literally, like, almost a little over half of the movie gets defeated by essentially the boss of the movie, it was just so disheartening, because I wanted, and I liked his relationship with Liu Kang. I liked them playing off, like when they were coaxing Kano to develop his Arcana. I like their chemistry together. So he dies, which really, really sucks. And Raiden takes them to this to the void, because Shang Tsung can't follow them there. And again, this is another reason why I just don't like Raiden in this movie. Liu Kang is honestly, of course, he's visually upset over this, and Raiden, Jax literally says, "Well, why couldn't you save him, Raiden?" And Raiden basically just like, "Oh, I can't save everybody. I'm Earthrealm's protector, but I can't save everybody, and I can't interfere." And I'm like, you've been interfering this entire time. Like, you didn't even find the Earthrealm fighters. They essentially found you. It wasn't like, for somebody who has the ability to teleport anywhere, to teleport even through planes of existence, the fact that you couldn't be asked enough to find Cole, to find Jax, to find Sonya before any of this happened, or you're conveniently late when everybody gets tapped. It's like, what is your purpose in this movie, man? And he's not stoic. He's not, he's not a wise figure. He's just there, and he's there at the worst times. Anyway, so everybody's like, defeated and has this negative attitude, and out of nowhere, Cole is just like, no, we can do this, and we can't give up now. The Earth is at stake. When just a few scenes earlier, like he just gave up immediately. And on top of that, Cole makes a freaking plan to defeat them, and is essentially, oh, let's just split them up and fight them where we want to fight them. And it's like, when did Cole instantly become this master tactician? Remember, this guy has just won one fight so far in this movie. He's had one good scene in this movie. Every other scene in this movie, he's getting destroyed. Literally, his like coach or whatever for the little illegal MMA fighting basically says, like, yeah, he has no strategy. When he goes in the ring, he just gets beat. So we're just supposed to take this guy's word, and he's the master tactician now, the guy who's literally just been getting defeated the entire time. Anyway, so he has his little hoorah speech, which again, it's not good, and they essentially get split up into different locations to defeat the members of Outworld, since Raiden can apparently teleport people from Outworld wherever he likes too, which again would have been really helpful in other parts of the movie. So they all split up. Jax takes on Raiko, and now that he has his actual arms that Jax usually has, he's an actual threat to Raiko. He defeats him pretty easily. Sonya fights against Kano, and I do like this scene because she's fighting against Kano basically in her home, and the choreography is really good because they utilize a lot of the background elements really well. Because they're in a home, she's constantly using items found in the home, like plates and frames and things like that, and using her environment to sneak up on Kano, and they are fighting dirty, man. Like, this is one of the few like really realistic fights in terms of just brawling. Like, they're fighting dirty. They're rolling on the ground, and they're just using any and everything around them to try to get the upper advantage. And they do this because, yeah, Kano has an advantage with his eye beam, and she circumvents this by pretty early in the fight disabling his ability to use it. She throws like some type of alcohol or acid in his eye as he shoots the beam, and that basically knocks him, makes him not able to use it. So she kind of gets upper hand and literally stabs his eye with a garden gnome, and that's how she defeats him. But that's also how she gets her Arcana, and so that's the way she gets her abilities. So then we cut to Liu Kang and Cole. They decide to take on Melina and Cabal. And again, we have a nice fight with Cabal and Liu Kang, and Liu Kang basically defeats Cabal with a fatality by using his little dragon fatality from the game, where he manifests a dragon to attack Cabal, which sets him on fire as Cabal's in this weird sand pit, quicksand thing. But then Melina's fighting against Cole, and Cole is outmatched. Like, she gets the upper hand on him pretty quickly, and she got him on the ropes. And I'm like, again, this is the master tactician and the guy who defeated Goro, but he can't take Melina. And I'm pretty sure Melina is way weaker than Goro. I mean, I guess you can say she has weapons, and Goro didn't. But still, it doesn't make any sense. Anyway, so he's barely holding his own against Melina. And Sonya is teleported in, and he's like, "Can I get any help?" And he throws Melina off of him, and she takes Melina out in one hit with her like power. Like she just gets one super lucky accurate hit right through the middle of Melina's body. And the other thing I don't like, they literally introduce characters just to, kill them. Melina is a pretty like big character in the Mortal Kombat, franchise. When we talk about Outworld characters and her, relationship with Shao Kahn and Katana, like she's a very important character. So to kill her off, one, is kind of ridiculous, but two, she gets like 5 lines in this whole movie. And I think Natara, who died even earlier in the movie, had like 2 lines. And it's like, there's some characters that get literally no character development. And Melina is just basically cannon fodder. A major character is cannon fodder. Anyway. So basically they all win against their separate fights. But then it's revealed that Sub-Zero finds Cole's family, and he basically kidnaps them and takes them to the gym we saw at the very beginning of the movie. And this is basically where Cole is seen. The very beginning of the movie, this is like the hero's journey type stuff. This is where he started, and he was this very weak person, and now he's back to the same spot he was, but now he's different, and he's a seasoned fighter or whatever. But anyway, basically Sub-Zero's already like frozen his family, and he has to confront him. And again, he's clearly outmatched against him. He is just like basically just getting destroyed here. And he has his blade, which was Scorpion's brand, Hanzo's blade, from the very beginning of the movie. Raiden gives it to him, and during their fight, he starts bleeding, and his blood gets onto this blade, and that magically, for whatever reason, activates Scorpion coming back from hell. And with this is probably like the dopest scene in the movie. Sub-Zero sees the blade, and he's like, "Oh, this is Hanzo's blade." And as he tries to kill Cole with it, his arm gets impaled by Scorpion's spear, and the music kicks in. The dun 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 dun. The classic Mortal Kombat movie theme kicks in, and it's like a cinematic theme, but it hits right at the perfect time, boy. Hits right at the perfect time. And so then he says, "Get over here," flings Scorpion up, and again, probably the best fight in the movie is Scorpion versus Sub-Zero. And again, the choreography is so good. Like, Sub-Zero literally takes his blood and makes it into an ice sword. They do good choreography with Scorpion's chain attack or whatever. And in the middle of this, you see Cole like kind of in the background punching at ice, trying to save his family, and it looks absolutely stupid, man. Like, I don't know what they were thinking. I mean, I guess they had to find him, give him something to do, or another plan of action, but God, it looked so ridiculously stupid. So eventually it happens in which both Cole and Scorpion are fighting Sub-Zero, and he kind of was already outmatched by Scorpion himself, but with both of them working together, basically they become OP, and they get the upper hand, and they defeat Sub-Zero, and man, it's just every part of this fight scene. Scorpion just looks so dope. He uses the way they make him move, attack. He's like brutal, man, and there's some good combo attacks between Cole and Scorpion together that I do like. And so they Cole's family is actually rescued because of Scorpion basically lets out this heat attack, which saves them from being frozen. And after defeating Sub-Zero, Raiden again just so conveniently happens to come at the end of another fight, almost as if he's just avoiding fights. He happens to come at the end of the fight, and everybody's kind of like joyous, they won. And Shang Tsung comes back, and he's basically like, you may have defeated him, but I'm gonna come back with an army, and death is just another avenue or whatever. And Raiden then like shuts him up and teleports him out. And I'm like, you could have did that at any point of the movie. Like, it's already been established that these rules on Mortal Kombat, are not, they don't matter. It's already been established that they don't matter. So why now, at the very end, you want to teleport this guy out of here, like he shouldn't have been here? But you want to say, oh, the Elder Gods. Man, y'all haven't cared about the Elder Gods at all in this entire film. And for that matter, you didn't care about the rules. He's been attacking them. Shang Tsung's been attacking them this entire time, and there hasn't been a tournament. Like, the whole thing about Mortal Kombat was that you have to have this tournament in order to invade another realm. There's been no tournament. This whole movie, there wasn't a tournament. It was just a series of fights. It's essentially a prequel. So why now at the end, oh, it's just fine just to teleport this guy away? So, to wrap up the movie, he basically warns them that, hey, greater enemies are coming, and we need to properly prepare. So I'm going to amass a bunch of fighters for you guys to find, basically setting up for the sequel. Essentially, it's just a setup for the sequel. It ends with Cole kind of going back to the gym, getting his stuff out of the locker, and then kind of like the manager or whatever saying he's got another fight for him. And Cole basically is like, I'm not fighting for $200 fights anymore. I'm doing something bigger with my life. And he's like, well, where are you going? He's like, oh, I'm going to Hollywood. And he's like, oh, what's in Hollywood? And he's like, it's not what's in Hollywood, it's who's in Hollywood. And then it just kind of pans to Johnny Cage, and it just basically, foreshadows that Johnny Cage is going to be in the next one. Whoopee. Johnny Cage was never a favorite character of mine, so I'm fine with that. I'm not really super hyped about that. But anyway, it was a clear setup for a second movie. So, was it a good watch? It is definitely worth your time. I think I got really caught up into the hype cycle leading up into the movie, because the trailers did a good job of really making you excited for the movie. I think the character representations were really faithful. I think they did a great job in the casting. The fight scenes were great, especially compared to 1995, where everything was just really practical based and you didn't have a lot of special effects. And then the special effects that you did had, they were kind of cheesy. And yeah, this one is a little cheesy too. Okay, I'm failing that fatality. There's some cheesy parts in here, like, the one-liners, the fact that every character literally looks into the camera and says their name at some point of the movie. There's a lot of goofy stuff like that. But at the end, it was a pretty fun watch. If you're a hardcore Mortal Kombat fan, you may be very disappointed at the story aspects, because I was. But it was great to see these characters kind of like live action. But what kind of makes the story more disappointing is that the games do a pretty good job of establishing story. Now, I'm not saying the story in the games are like amazing or anything, but they're very entertaining. And, there's a clear evolution of the characters. They have arcs, they have motivations, and they do a great job of making the characters feel, real. There's consequence to a character dying in the games. It didn't feel that right in this way. Like, there's characters that clearly just not, fleshed out. And the movie clocks in at like an hour and 50 minutes, like right under 2 hours. I wouldn't have minded an extra 30 minutes. If some things were fleshed out really well, if Melina, for instance, if they had some type of reference to Katana, or if the Scorpion versus Sub-Zero family, or more so the Lin Kuei and the Shirai Ryu, if they had more focus on that, because they say Shirai Ryu and the Lin Kuei, they never explain what they are. As Mortal Kombat fans, we know that's the clans that Scorpion and Sub-Zero are attached to, but they never make a point to actually explain those clans, their rivalry in the movie. So, it's definitely worth a watch. You're gonna be kind of annoyed if you try to compare it to the game storyline, because you're just gonna kind of be like, oh well, this character should have did this and that character should have did that, and where's X, Y, and Z. You're going to make the movie more actively enjoyable if you come in with that. But if you come in with a good time, just thinking, hey, I'm just gonna shut my brain off for 2 hours. I'm gonna look at these flashy effects and see these classic characters be represented in the 3D space, then yeah, you're going to have a good time. All right, so definitely a good watch. Just come in with appropriate expectations. So this is just something new I'm trying out, seeing how it is. Unscripted, just general notes, and hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully it was a good time, just rocking out, chilling out, playing some games, and talking about the movie. So if you made it this far, appreciate you watching. This is Brian. This has been Casual Reviews on Sound Test.